Hi, I'm State Representative Jerry Knowles, and I'm here at the Farm Show with our Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding.
Great to see you. Welcome.
Mr. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you, particularly here at the Farm Show.
Yep.
Quite an operation that we all Pennsylvanians can be so proud of.
I think you've got it right. I mean, it's not a department show. It's not any particular commodity, right? It's not a county. It's the Commonwealth. And I think that's really something we should be proud of and celebrate. We've done it for 102 years. It says something about our history and the importance of ag, but also says something about the future.
Mr. Secretary, you mentioned the 102nd Farm Show. And it seems like every year something is new and unique and different. Is there anything different about this show that you can talk about, or about this show, this farm show?
We've done a couple of things this year. You know, we had a very successful industrial hemp program last year in Pennsylvania, the first time in 70 years that industrial hemp was reintroduced to Pennsylvania. So we have an exhibit here with a number of the projects that we had this past year on industrial hemp. So they're showing products and all those kind of things that we talked about during our hearings. We have a calving corner where we have cattle, dairy cows that are actually in a birthing center where cows are giving birth every day to calves. We have that this year. We've added, you'll see around the complex signage that says, I am PA Agriculture, ask me how, with the goal of trying to have folks in agriculture identified with it. So folks may identify me with agriculture, but they may identify somebody else who is a food scientist or a botanist or whatever. So that's an important part of our change this year too.
Industrial hemp. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that has become such an issue here in the Commonwealth? I know that we talk about it in the legislature.
Yep.
Can you just talk a little bit about more industrial hemp for people who may not know exactly what it is?
Yeah, it's important. Last year being 2017, is the first time in 70 years that the industrial hemp could actually be legally grown in the state of Pennsylvania. And we got there by act of Congress. In the last Farm Bill of 2014, they gave the states authority to grow it. They retained the classification as a Class 1 drug, which is a separate issue. But the states then had to sort of enact their own legislation. Of course, you were part of that, and we were successful getting that done, Act 92. That set the stage for projects last year in 2017. We're expecting here in 2018 to do 50 projects, hopefully have 5,000 acres versus the limited acreage you had last year. It's got a lot of potential. What's missing is the market, and that's going to be the critical piece for us as we go forward. So we're excited to be back in having hemp production again for the first time in 70 years.
When we look around, Mr. Secretary, and we see the number of people that we see here, many of them are from our farming community.
Yes.
But there are a number, naturally, that are not necessarily from our farming community. Can you tell me, how does the Farm Show connect with the non-farming public?
Yeah. If you go back in history, and I think it's one of those sort of changes over time that, when this farm show was first conceived, it was all about farm and the farm community. And 100 years on, it is now about the farm and the connection to the consumer, right? 2% of our farms and citizens feed us. The other 98% are beneficiaries of that, but don't have to worry every day about production. So it's really important that we use this 8 days in January to connect production with consumption, identify people, the jobs, the food, the diversity that's embedded in our theme. This is critically important to teaching about agriculture.
And I think that is so important because, when you ask some people, well, where do apples come from? Well, they come from the grocery store. Yeah, where do tomatoes come from? Well, they come from the grocery store.
Right.
And I think we need to remind people about the importance that our farming communities and agriculture plays here in Pennsylvania. As a former county commissioner many years ago, the Farmland Preservation program came into existence. we are very fortunate that we can be very proud of the fact that we have a great program in terms of farmland preservation. Can you talk a little bit about exactly what that is? And can you talk about how many acres and how many farms are affected? I mean, you may not have that information at your fingertips, but
yeah, no, we're very, very proud. I mean, you know, I'm amazed that you know, our program started on a ballot in a primary, asking the public, would you invest in farmland preservation, the purchase of easements for prime agricultural land. And it distinguishes us from any other state, is that our question was a public question. And the public overwhelmingly said yes, we do that, right? So 25 years on, we have 550,000 acres of farmland in 57 counties. Schuylkill is one of those, this great sort of heartland. 5,200 farms preserved in perpetuity. And I think it's an amazing story of public policy, of the conservation, but most importantly, the families, you know, who said yes to that, by the way, right? And our obligation now to make sure that we support them.
it's amazing to me. I'm going to be with my friend Boots Hetherington tomorrow, and never realized regardless of what area of agriculture you're in, whether you're growing strawberries or apples or whether you're a milk guy, it's just incredible to me the work and the risk that farmers take when they go out and they plant their product, and there's just so many factors that enter into it.
It's a good reminder when we talk about here at the Farm Show the strength in our diversity is that diversity of operations, and to your point, Representative, the challenge of having that be a successful enterprise, right? Because you want those farms like the Hetherington family, to be successful. But that doesn't happen without a lot of support, the right policies, right, the right regulatory environment. So, a lot goes into making agriculture work in Pennsylvania.
Another issue, the spotted lanternfly. I know that there was a lot of concern in Berks County about that particular situation dealing with the lanternfly. I believe, from what I'm gathering, it has spread.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, what is the department doing to get rid of the lanternfly? And explain to me why is it so destructive? I don't quite understand that.
Yep. So first identified up in Berks County in 2014, and identified by sort of a citizen who said, "What is that? It's beautiful, but what is it?" Well, it is, unfortunately, it is an attractive, invasive pest that came in from, we think, South Korea. It came into Pennsylvania. It is a winged, it's a hopper, so it's fairly mobile. It's damaging because it is indiscriminate in what it likes. So it's the grapes, it's the apples, it's the fruits and vegetables. It's also hardwoods. So all of the things that we grow here in Pennsylvania. So we're very concerned about it. We're working with our partners at the U.S. Department of Agriculture to try to contain it. We have 13 counties in a quarantine zone now that sort of run this belt of southeast Pennsylvania. So it's going to take a lot of work. Our strategy is to work with our state agencies, work with the landowners, keep working on the research, because you need some way to spray to contain it, not just remove the Atlantis tree, which is its host material. So very concerning.
You truly enjoy what you do. This is your second stint, right? Yeah,
I've had the good fortune of always being in agriculture. So regardless of what I've done, there's been this agricultural piece. But had a chance to work with Governor Rendell as secretary, undersecretary most of the time, and then come back with Governor Wolf. But she got my start with Tom Ridge in the Department of Agriculture. So I say it many times, that any day that your vocation and avocation are the same, you're a lucky person.
You are a lucky guy.
Right? So
I say all the time, I truly enjoy what I do, and I get paid to do it. And I truly enjoy public service, and it's obvious that you do.
Yeah.
How about the fair? The farm show? It's going pretty good. I know the cold weather has it had any effect on it? That real cold weather?
Yeah, we were concerned certainly in the early part of the week. Particularly on Saturday. It was -7 degrees when I came in, plus the wind chill, and so you just think about young families trying to move strollers around, or even themselves for that matter, just how difficult that became. But Sunday, strong day. I think everybody who didn't make it Saturday came Sunday. Yesterday we had some ice and snow threats, which kept some people away, but today we're back. So, that's the blessing of an 8-day show. You have some give and take. The weather's going to warm up here for the week. So I feel pretty comfortable saying we'll have a great show, great attendance as well.
I think this is important to just, before we close, to just, different people have said to me about dealing with the weather.
Yeah.
Like, why, I know the answer to this, but I'd like you to share it in terms of why do you have it when you have it?
Yeah. So it started in January, and it was viewed, and there's a sort of interesting history we probably don't have time to talk about, but there were a group of commodity organizations at the time who petitioned the governor and the Secretary of Agriculture at the time to do a commodity show. And the belief was, it was when it was after the holidays, it's before you make planting decisions. These were all root crops by and large. They were stored crops. They weren't going to last until summer, but you wanted to put your best harvest on display, right? That became the winter, and for any number of reasons, it wasn't. There was actually a proposal at one point to do it in December, but folks said no. Let's do it as the start of a new year.
Well, interestingly enough, I said, like, it was after a very snowy period of time. With the farm show, and I said, like, why don't you just do it? And they said, well, think a little bit about when the farmers are most available in terms of being able to gather and do what they do.
Right.
And it makes perfect sense. Mr. Secretary, on behalf of the 62,000 people that I represent in Schuylkill, Berks, and Carbon County, I want to thank you for what you do for our Commonwealth and for our agriculture community. It is always a pleasure to talk with you. You are always very cordial and very knowledgeable, and I appreciate you sharing your time and sharing your expertise. Mr. Secretary, thank you again.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for being here.
Yes,
All your
sir.
support.
Enjoy
Thank you.
the rest of your farm show.
Do the same. Thank you.